What's up, everyone? Welcome to the fly tying bench. We're going to do a two-part video today. We're going to start at the bench, show you some cool stuff on the vise. We're going to head down to the river and show you two techniques on how we use this. Stick with me. We're going to try and get it done in a reasonable amount of time, and we're going to show you some cool innovative flies like this guy right here, which I call the bike tube jigstone. You can see the bike tube in there, showing the wing casing of the large stone fly. Here's my bike tube right here. I chop it down. It looks something like that. The wing casing on a big stonefly. I'll show you a picture of a big stonefly from a local river here. This is what we're going to get you up to. We're going to start with something a little simpler. This is kind of like the deluxe edition. We're going to start with the basics and then move you on up to this. But this fly here, and this one here, which is the one we're going to tie right now, the jig stone or the bike tube jig stone, this is kind of the centerpiece of your Euro nymphing set up on your spin rod. This is a 1/16 ball head jig, the Gumball from Northland. It comes in a big bag, packaged up with their little tag on it. I got a 25 pack a while back, and I'm still sorting through all the cool stuff I can make out of on them. And so this is a real easy fly to tie. We're going to go pretty quick, but we're going to show you how to do it. So what you need to get is the medium floss, the sexy floss. This stuff here is real jiggly. One piece per fly is more than enough. And then, of course, chenille. And I'm using kind of a variegated sparkle chenille here with some olive and some black just to be a little bit different out there on the river. But like I said, this is the cornerstone of your Euro nymphing flies on your spin rod setup, because this fly here, this 1/16, it's about 1.6 grams or so. You cast it, it gets you to the zone. You have another fly attached with your swivel above, and that brings that fly right into the sweet spot of the zone, and you catch a lot of fish on that one. There's several ways to fish this. So we're going to start right out here. We're going to put the thread on the hook right by the paint. We're going to come down to the barb. Right? We're going to come back up over it. We're going to get up over that lead, just so when we get up here, that slick paint, we got something to grab onto with our thread that allows us to bind to. We don't have any issues. Boom, we're going to come right back to that barb. We're going to cut off our excess. So what you do to set up your materials, the main legs in this fly are there's two legs and one antennae. You cut that into 2-inch strips, have that right down here, ready to go. 3 pieces into 2-inch strips, and then whatever's left over as you pull out one of these from the bag, you use for your tail. You get it right in there, come over it once, twice, swing it around, and then pinch over both of them. Kind of pull it into position there. Now you're pinching over both of them to make a nice bead tail. And get them both separated into kind of a tail for your bug. And then once you've locked it down in the position you like, you can lightly pull it back, both of them, and cut it off to make about a 1/2-inch tail. And then so you'll end up with a forked tail like that. Hopefully you can see that. Real buggy looking stonefly tail. We're going to leave that right there. We're going to come in, and we're just going to pinch over the chenille and put it on the body, just so we have something to wrap over. Okay, going to come right back to the back of that, tie it down good, right there. Move on up to the lead and start your wrapping. Touching wraps, moving forward. No need to bulk it up. Come right up to the lead. Lock that in, lay that out of the way. Now get your 3 legs. They all need to be, or your 3 strips of rubber, they all need to be pretty much aligned in the same length. You know, they don't need to be perfect, but you need to have about equal amounts on either side. We're going to lay them in crosswise on the body here. So half's on one side, half's on the other. Right where that thread wrap is, we're going to come over it. Simply. Boom, pin them down, get them tight in there. Chenille wants to have some get into the party. Okay, so now we have them tied down in the one direction. Whatever direction you did, now let's go the other direction. Just kind of straighten them out so they're neat. Come around, get the thread. So now we've crisscrossed over them. Chenille's trying to climb in there, you know. Come on, man, stay out of there. Okay, we're just locking those down. So now we have them locked down like that, equal per side. Pull them out of the way, Wrap down in front and move your thread up to the head of the ball, or right behind the head of the ball there. Boom, come back to your chenille. Now this is where you just kind of let your legs kind of hang naturally and see which one is going to be the back one. Grab your back one, the one that's kind of tending like it should go back. It's not bending over any of the others. And wrap over it and force it to the back. And then the sister leg of that one, it doesn't really matter if it's the same piece or whatever. It just get one to go to the back. You know, and now you can pull them out and get them where you want them on the side of the body. You know, so they're down on the sides. Now you have two pointing forward and two pointing to the side or back. So there'll be two more that kind of want to lean back. Come around those. Keep your last one on the side. Come around that one that wants to lean back. And then do the same on this side. Grab the one that you like. Not two, just one. Boom, over it. Now you have two leaning forward. We're going to wrap right over those. Those are going to be the antennae. And we're going to bring those right up to the head. You know, we're going to check on all our other legs, make sure they didn't get caught up in the wrong position. They're all sticking out like an X. And then you have two coming to the front as antennae. Let's lock that down, the chenille and the antennae. Okay, keep those at the front. Keep those at the front. Let's lock that down. Let's get that guy right there, lock him in front. Let's cut the chenille out. We have our antennae sticking off the top of the head right here. You can see there's two kind of coming right off the top of the head like antenna would. We're going to lock down over the top of those. Okay. Lock down over the top of those. We're going to come in and trim our legs. We're just going to 1, 2, trim our legs so it's a little bit easy for us to work our material or our thread when we tie the knot. This one here is sticking up, so we're going to pull it back down where it belongs. Give it a little trim. These ones are a little longer. This floss material is interesting. It's kind of a weird plastic, but so now I got a few legs sticking out and two antennae coming to the top. I'm all locked down. I'm going to get my whip finish, and I'm just going to come in here with my whip finish. Don't mind these rubbers. Just wrap right over them. If they get stuck in there, just pull them out. They're pretty flexible. So I do a 4, 5, 6 wrapper. Pull it tight. Another 4, 5, 6 wrapper there. 1, 5. Boom. Pull it out. There's 2 good knots in there. It's a very durable fly. Let's trim that. So there you go. You know, you can get your antennae as long as you want. I'll show you a picture of stonefly. They got pretty big antennae. You got them coming out the top there. Let's take this down the river and show you 2 ways that I've fished with it. See you down there. All right, welcome back to the river. It's amazing how peaceful things are once you get off the dirt road and come down here, and all you can hear is the water rippling on the rocks. Everything kind of settles down. You get your stuff set up, camera set up. It's amazing how that works. The river, the power of the river is real. All right, so we're going to stick to the video today. Here's the fly we just tied. Those jiggly rubber legs on that jig stone, that fire tiger head, and that sparkly olive chenille. Of course, this is the Euro nymph setup, right? We're going straight to that fly on the main line, or that jig on the main line. About 12 inches up, I have a swivel. Then I have this fly right here. This is right out of my Euro nymph box. This is probably one of the most productive fly patterns I've ever come up with. This is the EAT, the E-A-T-T, the everywhere, all the time nymph. It's just basically a little bit of that cool copper color that we like, a couple goose biots, a bead, like a 3.0 bead. And I know I've told you guys to go no weight on these rigs with a drop shot or whatever, but with some of these real small flies sometimes, I think it's okay to have a weight, maybe pull it away. So you experiment on your own. Tell me in the comments what you think. But this is what we're casting. We're casting a 1/16 fire tiger head, the ball head, the gumball head from Northland. You saw me tie it. We're going to nymph through here. That's one technique. The first technique, though, that I'm going to start with is a little bit different. You've seen me do it before, but I changed it up a little bit for this run. So I'm going with the bobber. I'm going with that jig stone on the bobber. Whoops. And today I got the bike tube jig stone. See if I can turn the rod there. There's that bike tube jig stone. Look at the light on that one. Those bike tubes looking like those nasty wing cases I showed you. Rubber legs. We got some brown sparkle chenille on there. This one weighs about 1/16. I showed you in my other video how I weighed them up there. This one casts well on the Euro nymph setup. I'm putting it on the bobber today. I have a 6.4 millimeter tungsten bead on that, size 8 fulling mill jig force hook. And then I just put a couple strips of lead, maybe 2 or 3 down there, tie it off, put it on the scale, make sure it's in that 1.5, 1.6 range, and then put the rest of my fly on there. Seemed to work really well. Of course, that comes up to another swivel. That one's about maybe 15, 20 up, 20 inches up. And I got just the old school San Juan worm out there. Now, if you've watched my videos before, when I fish the bobber, you know what I do. I'm not going to stick that tech tip in here. I'm going to put it on the end so you guys can go watch that tech tip. I greased the line, I dressed the line, put the floatant on the braid, first 30, 40 feet of my line. I did that back up at the rig. Watch that tech tip, it's going to get you more fish. This is the first technique that I'm going to use. I'm going to work this bank line right here up to the camera. Then I'm going to turn the camera out to this juicy spot you see out in front of me, a little deeper, and fish that. I don't really know this run that well. I can tell there's a lot of boulders in it. I know along the bank, I had to walk up here, there's a lot of boulders. So I want to use that bobber to just get a feel for this run. I've got it set really shallow right now. You can see right there, the bobber's right there. And there's my fly. So we're talking about 30 inches under the bobber. And that San Juan's not too far under the surface, maybe about 12 to 15. So stick with me. I'm going to get right down here below and I'm going to work this bobber through the seams. I'm going to turn on the GoPro. I'm going to turn on the GoPro so we know we got 2 cameras running in case anything happens. Then we'll be ready to go. Stick with me. All right, jig stone. Show us how it's done. We got a nice little boulder out there. First cast is always a tough one with the light braid. Get it off the spool, there we go. We're just fishing this like we were any kind of other bobber. We're just letting it bounce and dance through there. It's probably ticking on the bottom for sure. We got a nice slow drift right there. That was pretty good. So you kind of think of that as a little V. You want to fish both sides of that V. And then just let it work down the seam. You know, it's not going to hang straight down like your steelhead jig, but it's going to hang pretty good. It's going to hang pretty much almost straight down. It's going to be dancing that worm along with it. And you can fish pockets like this that you normally wouldn't really be able to fish with a fly rod without tremendous effort. So with that floating on the line, it just makes it like a feather. It doesn't stick at all. Try to put a good 4 or 5 casts in there. You know, we're just demonstrating it today. If we were fishing this to catch every fish in the run, you know, we'd sit here and probe the whole thing. But now I fished the outside one. Let's go to the middle and the other side. Show it some fish over there. See how it hung up there in the current? I could just lift up the line off the water real easily. Getting a nice drift down that seam with 2 very productive flies. All right, we fished the bobber through there. We covered some water. There's a lot of water to cover. We're out here doing some demonstrations today, so we don't want to take up all our time using one technique. Now we're going to switch it over to the Euro Nymph. I've talked about this a little bit before, but I want to go a little bit more in depth for you guys. You know, there's that fly we pulled off the vise. And then, of course, the EA TT right there, that bad boy. Looks pretty juicy. You know, this is a very versatile setup for people fishing for trout, or really any kind of creek fish anywhere, because it allows you to deliver 2 flies very accurately with just a very slight flick of the wrist cast. This is a very aerodynamic, hydrodynamic setup that gets small baits, small flies out there accurately, and then gets them down to the bottom so you can really fish them. And that's why it's kind of been pioneered through the competition angling, where you have a really tuned setup that allows you to feel everything. This is contact nymphing, Euro nymphing, competition nymphing, as I've said before. So we don't really want to be hucking it across the river, right? You do have to do a little bit of wading with this style of fishing because you're really fishing in close to you. And because you have such a tuned setup, you've been watching my channel and you're using a rod like this Bass Pro that's made to cast stuff down to 1/32 or 1/16, and you got the right line on there, you can huck these little 1/16 jigs. But if you're hucking them out there, you're really not covering the water as effectively as you could. Go ahead and huck it a few times. You know, as I'm telling you this, I look out there and there's water out there that I'm just not going to wade to. But those are the things that you should be considering when you're fishing this Euro nymph technique. And if you need to, watch some of the fly fishing videos or get a fly fishing book on it and read it. Check out what they're saying, because it's all the same. The basics are the same. You can use the same flies. We just need to have a little bit more weight on our spin to cast it, but they're not casting the line with the fly line like a normal setup. They're casting the weight of that fly on a very light tipped rod that can feel everything and flick those out there. So feel free to kind of delve into some of their knowledge and see what they're using, but some of their #1 anchor flies are these big beaded stone flies. I'm just going to poke it around through this run where I drifted the bobber, and I didn't really tangle up with the bottom too much, so I expect to hit the bottom here. So let's make sure the GoPro's going, and let's go do a little Euro nymphing, and then once we're done with this area, I'll move up and I'll fish the top of this run here around this little bush. I'll do it all again in there and see if we can't find someone who's home today. But it is wintertime. It's been pretty chilly. You know, these fish are pretty slow, but they should bite. And again, the first cast is always a tough one. Get some line out there, let it dance. So yeah, I got a nice boulder pocket right here in front of me that I can just get it on the middle of that seam, let it come down. Oop, there's the bottom. I'm just dancing it in there. You know, and I do have to kind of pull it back to me. It does kind of swing back to you. So you don't get to fish the whole pocket. You get a sweet drift in a certain portion of it, the top, middle of it. Now I'm down to the bottom. There's a good drift. Feel the bottom there. It's kind of working a little bit towards me. Tap, tap. So then as it starts to kick up, I move out. I'm just a little bit further, little flick of the wrist. I'm out there in a deep bouldery pocket right on the bottom immediately. The faster water, it all happens a little faster, right? So you got to be cognizant of that. So there it goes, right in that nice little V of that boulder, behind that boulder. Dropping it down in. Ooh, I thought that was a fish. I hadn't touched bottom yet. And all of a sudden it tightened up. All right, well, we're hooking caddis pupa off the bottom, so that's good. Caddis casings at least. Always check your knots to make sure you got that 90 going on. You got a good 90 right there when you're going from fly to fly. And let that dance on the bottom. Get a few good casts out of it through each pocket.